All right, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So I've explained that we are going to discuss the meaning of economic development, and superficially everyone thinks that it is known because there is widespread consensus on the concept. All right, so the first thing that I would like to say is that the meanings of development have varied throughout the ages. So, for example, my father tells me that when he was in the civil service of Pakistan, he was in the British, trained in British schools, and they were told that uh, power means having sea power, having coal mines, having industry, and having an isolated island with a cold climate, and of course, the racial characteristics of whites. So, after the sunset on the glories of the British Empire, basically the World War One, all of the European powers were destroyed, and the America remained safe from the war. So it emerged as a world power in the interwar period. So when America became the dominant leader, they changed the meaning of development, and they said that it has to do with democracy, it has to do with GNP per capita. Very interestingly, see what I want to make clear is the link between power and knowledge. A famous French philosopher has said that actually power is manifested by a structure of knowledge, and that is the more important aspect, which we don't realize. We think that power is guns and tanks and atom bombs, but actually, this is not the way it is. It is the soft power which is much more important. So in 1930, if you look at the Encyclopedia Britannica, I have done so, there is no entry for democracy. Democracy is because in the British were aristocrats and they had an aristocratic system, and it was only the rise of America to power that made democracy into a more important variable. So if you look at the trajectories of GDP per capita, you find that they're not that divergent. But after the World War One, the European powers were destroyed and they lagged behind, and the US took the lead in the world in terms of GNP per capita. So an important thing to note is that the history is the conquest song of the victors. So they defined the criteria to make sure that they were on top. So what happened next was interesting. That the oil economies, they were small economies. They took the lead. They went ahead of USA in GNP per capita. So then the meaning of development was redefined, and they said that these oil economies, there's one sheikh or a small family, and they are enjoying the benefit. So it's not really the wealth is not really distributed evenly. So if you want to say that some countries developed, it's not enough to look at the GNP per capita. It must be that the income distribution is relatively, and everybody has a share in it. So then what happened next was that the some countries in the USA, some countries in Europe, like Norway, Switzerland, they went ahead of USA in both in terms of GNP per capita, and they also had very nice income distributions. So again, the definition of development had to be changed to make sure that USA stays number one. And so it was accordingly they said that the infrastructure also matters. Now the USA is a huge country, and infrastructure means bridges, dams, roads, etc. Nobody could compete with the USA. So this is the current definition. But the point that I want to make is not that what is the definition of development. The point is that the definitions of development are changed according to whoever happens to have the power. And definitely, when the Muslims were in a similar position, world leadership for 1,000 years, they did not define development by wealth. They defined development in other ways. So, does it matter? Well, it matters a lot in the sense that if you, depending on what you think is development, that is what you strive for. So, for example, when Turkey lost the war, World War One, and they said, okay, so we need to be developed. So, what should we do? They said that we need to copy the European culture. So they opened up ballets and music and dancing, and they translated a huge number of European novels into Turkish. Now the Japanese also lost World War One, and they came to a different conclusion. They said that we are behind in mathematics and science and technology, and so they sent a huge number of their students to study medicine and engineering and mathematics in Europe and America. And they translated all of the books in mathematics and science and physics and medicine into Japanese. They did not translate European novels into Japanese. So we can see the outcome in that Japan, at some point in 2000s, became the top country in the world in GNP per capita, and Turkey is still a middle-income country. So the question is, what is the right meaning of development? Is there a right meaning, and does it matter? So actually, what we choose matters a lot because that determines our priorities. What should we do? If we have a particular ideal in mind, then we will have ways that we can strive for this. So now, current priorities are that economic growth is everything. So if the minister announces that I have achieved 6% growth, everybody is very happy and says that this is the great thing. And if it's 5%, then it's not so good, and so on. But is this really the only thing which matters? So the standard economic theory which I teach says that there is trickle down. Once growth happens, then everyone will benefit from it. And Mahbubul Haq, together with the Harvard Policy Group, applied this theory. This theory is he stated that economic growth is a very ruthless and cruel process, because what happens is that you make the laborer produce, and then you don't allow him to eat the fruit of his production, because you use that to invest in your factories and infrastructure and so on. And that is the formula for growth. But he tried this for 10 years, achieved high growth rates, but was not satisfied with the outcome, because he saw basically that the wealth had concentrated. And this is exactly what is happening today. That growth rates are reasonable, but they are leading to concentration of wealth in the hands of the few. So the growth produces extra wealth, but it doesn't go to where it's needed. So Mahbubul Haq actually changed his approach, and this is true of wherever this capitalist model of growth has been applied. That in Russia, Jeffrey Sachs, who got a PhD from Harvard and applied these Harvardian theories, and he said that we should use the shock strategy to transform the communist economy into a capitalist economy. The result was that overnight, many billionaires were created, and overnight, billions of people, not billions of people, but lots of people became poor. A country which was feeding all of its citizens suddenly had a high incidence of hunger and malnutrition. And so this is what is the same thing happened in Chile under Pinochet, with advice from Chicago boys to create a free market economy. So basically, there's one very solid and established empirical outcome. If you take free market policies, the result is concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. And basically, the phenomena which everybody is talking about these days, Piketty, the 1% versus the 99%, growth benefits the rich. And this is something which Karl Marx had said a long time ago that, okay, you have growth, so wealth comes in, but who will it go to? So Marx said that the powerful will grab the major share, which makes a lot of sense. And exactly the same thing has been said by Piketty in different ways, that it is the rich people who benefit the most from the growth. So Mahbubul Haq actually renounced his allegiance to Harvard and he created this Human Development Index. And he said that we should focus on human development instead of wealth. So he included education, health as criteria for his Human Development Index. So the criteria that we choose for development matters a lot because the politicians consider themselves accountable in terms of what is being prioritized. So if the nation tells them get us high growth, that's what they will do and that's what they will proclaim. People will say that, there's lots of unemployment, lots of people are poor, there's hunger, there's malnutrition. He says, yeah, that's fine, but I've got the growth. I got you the growth. Now, on the other hand, Mahbubul Haq's human development criteria says that no, education matters, health matters. So if we make these the target criteria, if we say that, infant mortality in Pakistan is very high, much higher than that of comparable countries, and this is what we hold our politicians responsible for. And if the headline reads that the malnutrition in Pakistan reaches catastrophic levels, then the politicians will respond to this and they will say that I have reduced the malnutrition instead of talking about growth. So the current criteria that we are using are actually quite harmful for us because they don't correspond to the true priorities that we should have for development. So in phase 2, Mahbubul Haq said that we should have growth, but we should also have health and education. But later on, he moved even beyond this. And he said something which is very small, but very powerful. He said that human beings are the means and ends of development. So it's a very short sentence, but it is packed with a lot of meaning. And it also is a radical departure from what economic theory teaches us today. Because economic theory considers human beings to be producers of wealth. It makes creation of wealth the goal of economic policy. And it says your human beings are your capital, use them to produce wealth. But Mahbubul Haq said that no, our goal is to improve the lives of the people, to provide them with lives of honor and dignity and comfort. And the best way to do that is not to put up factories and to get technologies and to get foreign direct. It is these people themselves are the ones that you need to get on board, and they will create the growth. So this is a way of thinking which is very unfamiliar. Actually, it's actually, I think, part of our colonial heritage. We have a very top-down way of thinking. There is the queen, and then the governor, and then bureaucracy, and the boss is the boss, and the underlings must obey his orders. It's one-way stream. So today we have meetings, and I have been participating in several, about what are the schemes that we need to do in order to make sure that we have growth. And once we have the growth, we will share the fruits with the people. So this is the wrong mentality, the top down. What is needed is that how can we make the lives of our people better. And once we solve their problems, they will do whatever is needed to create growth, which we cannot actually imagine or foresee. So instead of doing growth for them and then letting them participate, we provide an enabling environment, an empowering environment, and let them undertake the schemes and create the schemes. So the wrong development theories currently dominant, and actually this is not just an accident. These theories are dominant because actually they contribute to the power. This was one of the insights of Marx, that the capitalists uh, are not able to get their way just because they have power and wealth, but also because they create theories which lead everyone to believe that this way of thinking, this way of this distribution, this is natural and just. And so actually economic theory says that whatever the person earns is actually marginal products. It's his contribution to society. So if somebody is earning billions, that's because their contribution to society is worth billions. This theory is wrong, but this is what is being taught today. And because of this theory, in the USA, they say that we should do tax cuts for the rich because they are the most productive people. And we have similarly, we the shadows of this knowledge fall on us, and we also think in similar ways. But the effect of these theories is obvious. In 2010, about 380 people owned half of the planetary wealth. In 2015, it was down to 62, and it just gradually reduced. And just recently, I saw the most recent Oxfam statistic, which says that now it's 8 people. Today, there are trillions of dollars, about 7 trillion, goes in payments from the poorest countries of the world to the richest countries of the world. So how does this happen? I mean, this seems like basically we are continuing to live in the era of colonialism, where the European powers dominated the rest of the world and exploited the rest of the world, and they transferred the riches from the rest of the world to Europe, leading to the current situation where Europe is highly, and he has high income levels much higher than the rest of the world, while the rest of the world is extremely poor. So the same situation continues today, but with a different mechanism. We no longer have armies and governors ruling the country. The thing is the debt and interest payment, which is used to achieve the same results that were achieved during colonialism. So the issue is that suppose that we were had the power to change the world, what would we change? Well, the theories that we are taught teach us that problems lie with big government, with privatization, with free markets, with free trade, and other things. These are the things that I was taught. And if I had been given the power, that's exactly what Jeffrey Sachs was taught. And that's how he collapsed the economy of Russia. So what we get, what we strive for. So if we have a goal to achieve certain things, then those are the things that towards which progress will be made. We may not achieve those things, but those are not. But we will not achieve anything else. So the thing is that Mahbubul Haq actually created a revolution. We are, as Pakistanis, we are not actually. We have a lot of unsung heroes. Mahbubul Haq actually was a very important figure in the world economic history. He was the one who changed the thinking from this concentration on wealth production to human development. Amartya Sen was his follower, and he went to the capabilities approach and many other ideas which are currently now gaining currency. But it is important to note that these ideas about human development, they have not made it into the economics textbooks. The textbook continue to teach that growth is the target, and if we get growth, we will get everything else, including human development. So they teach that once you have wealth, wealth is everything. Once you have wealth, you will eliminate poverty and you will do all the things that you want to do. So the idea, which is deeply embedded in minds of planners everywhere, is that the first target to focus on is growth. So we would like to focus on the Mahbubul Haq angle. There was a unique development episode in human history that took place 1400 years ago when the Prophet Muhammad came into the world. And as a matter of historical fact, the Arabs were the most backward people on the planet, and they were very advanced civilizations at that time. Of Persia, India, Rome, Egypt, China, these all had advanced civilization. They had technology which even now is unparalleled. And the Egyptian pyramids, I read an article 2 years ago in an engineering magazine, and they said that these pyramids, they are slanted bricks, and they are aligned perfectly. He said today with laser technology we can cut stones at such a precise way that we put one on top of the other, the slopes will be perfectly matched. But how they did this so many centuries ago, I don't know, because without laser technology, we don't know how to do it today, how to cut the stone at perfectly matching angles. So they had very advanced technology. But the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ led these people to world leadership, and in a very short time, in 30 years, Muslims had conquered a lot of area, and they created a culture which lasted for 1,000 years as the dominant on this planet. So how did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ create world leaders? And does that message have any relevance or importance today? Today, the Muslims as a whole have decided that no, this is something which is good for the past, and it is any glorious traditions of our grandfathers, but it is no good for us today. It is not very useful for us today. Today, we must learn different theories and techniques and methods for the modern world. That message was useful in its own time, but it is no longer of contemporary relevance. So the question is, have we any understanding of what was the secret of the success of Islam? Everybody, all historians, including Christians and others, acknowledges that Islam was a tremendously powerful message. It did change the destiny of nations. It changed the history of mankind. The currents that were flowing, badal divase kaan mein usne kaya. This is actually true. What happened in the world history is a unique episode in history. So what was the formula for this secret? So the dispute today is that formula, and the Western historians who write about the success of Islam, they said that was a wonderful formula for its own time, but it is no longer relevant today. But the question, unfortunately, Muslims also agree with this. They say that yes, the formula was very useful at that time, but today it does not have the power to change our destiny. So basically, the message that was brought by Islam is that the human beings, the Prophet ﷺ created human beings. He taught us how to be human. So the basic premise from Islamic point of view is that the human beings are the best of the creation. Within them, they have the potential to rise higher than the angels and also to be worse than the beasts. So today, the lessons that we are learning and teaching in our economic theory from the West is that the accumulation of wealth is the meaning of development. Karl Marx also says this, accumulation of capital, and Adam Smith also says this. the same thing. So there's widespread agreement on the idea that the meaning of development is just piling up of wealth. Human beings, human lives are subordinated to the production of wealth. There is now a famous calculation, very common now. What is the value of a human life? It is the amount of lifetime earnings. So if somebody can't earn much and he cannot contribute to society, his life is not worth much. So these ideas currently rule our policies. As opposed to this, Islam offers an alternative vision. It says that the human is the most important. The Quran says that if you take one human life, it is as if you have taken the whole planet. So the human beings are very, very precious. And so, what is the meaning of development? If we can give every human person a life of dignity and respect and provide them with the needs. So wealth, in the Western conception, human beings are a means to the production of wealth. In the Islamic conception, wealth is a means to the empowering and enabling human beings to operate. And obviously, if someone is starving, he will not be able to develop his potential. So, how can we improve human lives? Well, human lives are deeply embedded in societies. So, what we need to do is to create communities and improve social interaction. And also, they are deeply embedded in the habitat. So, we need to protect and preserve the environment. We are given this planet as an amana. It is not ours to do with as we please. All of these things have been disregarded and ignored in Western theories of development. As a result, the planet is headed for environmental catastrophe. And the environmental scientists are saying that unless we take action urgently, by 2050, if the present trend is allowed to continue, the planet will not be inhabitable by human beings. Why? Because in the production of wealth, we are killing everything. So many thousands of species of animals have been completely destroyed. Forests, lakes, rivers, oceans are polluted. Atmosphere is polluted. Why? Because industrial processes do this. So the only thing that counts is the production of money. And if you are destroying the planet in the process, that's not important according to current theories. So Islam teaches us different lessons. And it just like Islam brought a revolution to the world when it first came, it still has the potential to do the same. It still has the potential to do the same, to bring a revolution, just like it did 1400 years ago. Many of the concepts that Islam teaches are radically opposed to what we teach in economics today. In economics, we say that the only thing which matters is the outcome. It's not the process by which you get to the outcome. So, just like all is fair in love and war, so all is fair in the process of acquisition of wealth. So you can bomb a country, carpet bomb a country, kill everybody. As long as you acquire control of oil, this is perfectly legitimate. Today we are living in a law of the jungle. If you have the power to destroy a country, that gives you the right to do so. Nobody questions it. So the Islamic methodology says that no, it's not the consequences which matter, it's how you play the game, it's the process by which Islamic teachings, it is not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game that matters. And so this is clarified in many, many different traditions. So success does not mean winning the game. Success is achieved instantly. At this moment, if I do what is right, then I have achieved success. Whether I win the game or I lose the game, it doesn't matter. So Iqbal has expressed this in the words that तू रहना वर्द शौक है मंजिल न कर कबूल लैला भी हम नशी हो तो महमिल न कर कबूल. So these, yani, if we change the methodology by which we strive for success, then the whole game changes. And this is exactly what happened in the early period of Islam. You see that the Sahaba, they were not taught how to win wars. They did not teach them. They were not taught. They were not given new weapons. They were taught about how to live. And with this change, this created a dramatic change in the lives of the people. They were people who were burying their own daughters, fighting among each other for small purposes, and they became united in love, as the Quran testifies that the love that we put in your hearts is such that all the treasure on the world could not buy this. So the goals of an Islamic society are very different from the goals of Western societies. So today we are focused on the consequentialist approach, which has been taught to us by the West, that how can we change the world to a better place. And then the result is that we say that this is too big of a task for us. We cannot do anything. So let us do nothing. Let us just live, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow we'll die, and the big problems are such that we cannot solve them. So if we change the focus from external goals which cannot be achieved, how can the government be fixed? How can we eliminate corruption? And how can we do this, that, and the other? How can improve governance, eliminate malnutrition for Pakistan, fix the political relations with China and so on, and USA, Afghanistan, Iran. All of these are important things, but we are unable to do anything except for the key people. So basically, the goal is that every person does his little bit. In that little bit, he should be upright and honest and do what he can, not worry about those things which he cannot change. But the things that we can change is our internal world. And that is actually the key Islamic idea, that if we change the hearts of the people, this will create a revolution. So the external revolution follows an internal revolution. And again, Iqbal has expressed this by saying that कांपता है दिल तेरा अंदेशे तूफान से ना खुदा तू बहर तू किश्ती भी तू साहिल भी तू. So you are afraid of the external world and its storms, but actually you are the sailor, you are the ocean, you are the boat, and you are the coast. Everything is contained within you. So if we change the paradigm of development, this is basically the main focus of this lecture, that development is not about accumulation of wealth. Development is human development. In human development, I have to develop myself. You have to develop yourself. And the Quran says that لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. So every human being has the potential to be the best of the creations, but also the potential to be the worst of the beasts. So the process of education, we have to see how we can achieve this potential which is buried within us. So human beings are infinitely precious if they achieve the potential. Just like a seed has the potential to become an enormous tree, but if it doesn't achieve that potential, then it's useless. So today we are vying with each other for things which are unimportant, because we think that these are important. So if you think that there is a collection of seeds and one is saying, I am more round than you, and the other one is saying, I'm more shiny. So it is all irrelevant because the potential that is in that seed is not realized. If the seed is buried in the ground, it will disappear. It will be shattered, and the tree that emerges, that is what matters. So if the seed achieves the potential, it will no longer be there, but it will achieve something which is tremendous. And then on those dimensions, you cannot compare it to the seeds. So every human being is born with potential, but not everybody realizes that potential. बस के मुश्किल है हर एक काम का आसान होना, आदमी को भी मुयस्सर नहीं इंसान होना. So what are the obstacles to development today? The greatest obstacles are the illusion of foreign expertise. Today, many people think that if we want to solve our problems, we have to call in a foreign expert. This is the most serious mistake. This results from lack of confidence that has occurred because of centuries of defeat. And so we have lost the confidence that we can diagnose our problems. So some years ago in the 90s, after the Russia was defeated, the Washington consensus emerged that now we are the leaders of the world, we'll tell you what to do. And there were 10 points. So in 2002, World Bank published a book saying, evaluating the 90s, and they said that it has failed. These set of 10 policies that we recommended, they were adopted, used by many countries, and they failed to produce development. So what went wrong? So then they came up with an analysis, and now they have 20 policies in the new Washington consensus. And this will be announced to fail another 10 years later. But the point is that I have analyzed these policies, and the 10 and the 20. And today, if we were to sit down together and ask, what are the 100 most important problems that we need to solve? Not one of them would be within those 20 policies. So we have to think for ourselves, and the average person who is knowledgeable person in Pakistan will be able to do a much better diagnosis of the problems that we are facing as a society, and do a much better job of analyzing what we need to do in order to solve them than somebody who has a PhD from Harvard in development. Because basically, social science, you see, is actually a study of human experience. The Europeans analyzed their historical experience, and they came to some conclusions. This is what is development. For example, there's a famous Rostow's 7-stage theory of development. So what is this theory? Basically, it goes through the history of Britain. It says Britain started out like this. So that is the first stage of development. At next stage, they had this. So that is the second stage, and so on. So it is the history of Britain sort of generalized. So all of social science is like this. It is a generalization. So now people ask, and they have asked themselves also, that how come European experience applies us to all of the world? Well, again, this comes from illusion of Western superiority, that we are the most advanced civilization on the planet. Everybody else is a baby in comparison to us. And when they grow up, they will become like us. So whatever our theories are, they apply to the rest of the world. Now, this is a completely, this is not the time to explain all that is wrong with this Eurocentric view of the world, but there is no question that this is a false theory. Different civilizations pursue and have pursued in the past and will pursue in the future very different development trajectories. And certainly, we cannot achieve growth and development by following their path, because we cannot go out and colonize the rest of the world and conquer and loot and exploit like they did. So whatever path for development we choose, it will not be the same as the path that was followed by the European societies. So this idea that we are helpless, there is this learned helplessness. This is a psychological phenomenon that if you take a animal and put it in a cage and you put an electric shock on the door handle so that it tries to get free, but every time it touches the door, electric shock is applied, and so it learns that I am helpless, I cannot get free, and it stops. Now, even after you remove the shock, it will not try to escape because it has now been conditioned into thinking that it's helpless. So today it is possible, it is certainly true that when we were under the grips of colonialism, it was not possible to do. There were many things that it was impossible to do, and people tried. I mean, people tried to develop industry. The British came and destroyed this, and there were many things that were done to ensure that we do not develop. But now it is no longer the case. Now it is possible for us to develop, but the soft power that currently exists is the greatest obstacle to growth. So there is a lot of disinformation. The policies that we are pursuing, just like Mehboob ul Haq discovered, the latest policies at Harvard are not the ones that are the right policies for Pakistan. And so, of course, probably you're familiar with Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. So basically, his job was to go and sell loans to countries so that they could get huge amounts of money in return by forcing them to tax the people. And what was the modus operandi? It was to create econometric models which show that if you take this loan, this will be very beneficial for you. And actually, of course, so these models were basically lies. And I am an econometrician by training, so I know exactly how this is done. There are books that are entitled How to Lie with Statistics. And similarly, econometrics is a tool. In skillful hands, it can be used to deceive people in such a way that nobody will find out what is happening. So bad ideas are dominant. Today, this is now open. I mean, somebody has written "The Emperor is Naked," and this book, basically, the global financial crisis revealed to the whole world how the modern economic theory is, how it is bankrupt, because the economists had not foreseen this coming, and even after the fact, they had no idea why it had happened and what the solutions are. So the Queen of England went to London School of Economics and said, how come nobody saw this coming? And the US Congress appointed a panel, Congressional Investigation Committee, to investigate the failure of economics to predict the global financial crisis. So on the world stage, as I said, history is the conquest song of the victors. So the people who are dominating, they are deliberately spreading bad theories because these theories help those in power and they hurt those who are not in power. So Eugene Fama, who was one of the people who's the most responsible for the global financial crisis, because he formulated a theory that the stock markets are efficient and they can never mislead the people, which is in fact what they did. He got the Nobel Prize. But the East Asian economies, which have performed an economic miracle, and they have many good economists, not one of them has gotten a Nobel Prize. Why? Because we don't want them to follow those models which actually work. Instead, we want to follow models which don't work, because it is in the interests of the rich and the powerful to keep us poor and underdeveloped so that they can exploit us. If we were powerful and rich, we would not take their orders. So good ideas are suppressed. So I'm running out of time. So okay, just a few things. Well, there's a standard theory that governments are bad, private sector is good. These are all wrong theories. In every single development episode, it has been a strong and powerful government which has led the paths to growth. So lack of corruption is very important. How the government earns money, how the government spends money, these are actually central topics in Islamic public finance. And if we do this correctly, then it can make a difference. So it can make a tremendous difference. So if the government earns money in the right way and it spends money in the right way, that is the source for development. If it earns money wrongly by taxing the wrong sectors and it spends on the wrong things, then that can destroy um, growth. So today we are trapped by colonial structures and mindsets that the purpose of the government is to earn revenue. This is what happened. That was the purpose of government in the British India. There was only one purpose of the British government, and that was to extract revenue and send it to Britain. Today, our government is built on the same pattern, and our rulers follow similar concepts of governance. So, this government is hierarchical, it is extractive, and that's how it was built. It was not designed to be responsive to the needs of the people. This government was the structure is the same as it was in the British time, and it was designed to be top down, hierarchical. It was designed to be the instrument of a ruling power meant to control and dominate the people. It was not meant to be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So there is no lack of resources. Currently, people think that the Pakistani development requires foreign aid and foreign development and technology. This is not true. We are very richly endowed with resources. The problem is that we have the wrong priorities and deep misconceptions about how to create development. And these are deliberately fostered upon us that we should follow policies which will actually make us more dependent on others and so enslave us more into the chains of power. That's the goal, and I can explain. I have many examples to show how this works, but because of shortness of time, I will skip that. So, what is this? What are the requirements for growth? Well, these are fairly tough, and we need good, honest, sincere people who wish to serve and don't ask for anything for themselves. Islam. This is what Islam created: people who wish to serve others sincerely, honestly, selflessly, and this is what we need today. Actually, um, we have to clear our minds of fallacious and deceptive theories, and we have to delegate any. It's not that the government is going to do the development. We have to use what is called community led development. Now, as I said at the beginning, we have many unsung heroes. Actually, in our area, we have created many people who have served as guidelights for all over the world, but we don't have recognition for them because they are not part of the hegemon. So one of the secrets to rapid growth is community driven development. This was invented by Akhtar Hamid Khan in his Kumila project, and it was replicated in Pakistan in small projects. So basically, instead of the government doing the development and sharing, we should have active, vibrant communities which look at their own problems and try to solve them. There are many. This has a huge literature now, and it has been recognized as a very powerful idea, and it's being emulated all over the world. So we had Muhammad Yunus, who invented microfinance. This is also a very important tool for development today. We have Fazle Hussain Abid, who created BRAC. This is the first Bangladesh. This is the first model which successfully graduated poor out of development. It has been tried all over the world. I mean, other people tried other strategies and they all failed. And the main reason, the main insight is that poverty is a multi-dimensional phenomena. So previously people thought that we just give them money, that will solve the problem. That didn't work. Then they said, okay, give them a cow, teach them a skill, give them a sewing machine. That also doesn't solve the problem, strangely enough. You need to support them in 3 or 4 different dimensions in order to make sure that Otherwise, at the first shock, the person sells his cow, um, and so on. So you need to hold their hand in different places. And this model for a successful intervention was first created by Brack. It is also being followed here. Abdus Sattar Edhi is a hero. He has done things which have not been achieved elsewhere. We have SUIT, Indus Hospital. These are unique in the world in the sense that they provide health services to people without charging any money. This is Islamic model. Actually, the real Islamic model is that we have collective responsibility for all the children of our society. That we are responsible to educate all of them. And if somebody is hungry in the country, then we are responsible to make sure that they. This is a very different model from the private market model where a man can eat only if he earns money enough to eat. And you can get an education only if your parents have money to send you to school. This is the market society model which we are currently following. But Islam has other models, and these were successfully used for 1,000 years to create a society in which there were no hungry, in which literacy was very high, in which everybody who had an education, wanted an education, could get one. These were financed by Waqf, and there were many other institutions, but these have been forgotten and lost. So let me just conclude that life is not about wealth, power, and fame. These are the goals of Western societies, but actually, development takes different occurs in different dimensions, and so as but today we have been taken in by wrong ideas. We have been trained in and come to believe in wrong ideas. So, as Iqbal says, वो फरेब खुर्द शाहीन जो पला होकर गसों में, उसे क्या खबर कि क्या है रहो रस्म शाहबाजी. So I'll conclude.